Hi, I'm Danger Dan Jers, the host and GM of the D&D Real Play podcast, D&D Dark. Join us on Wednesdays for an absurd, over-the-top comedy horror adventure, starring some of history's most infamous monsters.
I'm Ben Magnet. I play Mary Frankenstein, our barbarian.
I am Daniel Cruz. I am playing Imhotep the Mummy, our cleric.
I'm Jordan, and I play Larry Talbot, a lycanthropic warlock.
I am Grayson, playing Jack Griffin, the Invisible Man, the party's rogue.
I am Aaron. I play the Phantom of the Opera, our bard.
For more information, go to dndarkpodcast.com and listen to us anywhere you find podcasts.
You've read the books. You've learned the rules. You've played the games. And so is your mom. Just making sure you're paying attention. Now, it's time for something completely off base. From the same guys who haven't done anything exciting yet are the Paladins of Podcast, Rob and Potato. Listen in as they talk about all things related to pen and paper games, challenge rules, and go off script. This is the high fantasy commentary you didn't ask for, but your mom did. This is the Epic Table Audio Show.
What's up, everybody, to another episode of the Epic Table Games Audio Show, starring the Paladins of Podcast, Rob and Potato.
What is up, Potato? How are you doing today?
Dude, I am so unbelievably tired, I cannot even stand up straight. It's so bad. How are you?
You know, honestly, I didn't sleep for shit last night either. I got a caffeine sensitivity, so I gave up energy drinks a while back, and I think I mentioned I made a joke that now I just drink a bunch of Mountain Dew. It's the same amount of caffeine for 3 times the amount of calories. But I started to scale back, and I had a Mountain Dew a little late last night, so I ended up staying up until 2 or 3 a.m.
Wow. I have the reverse problem. I'm like immune to caffeine. It doesn't matter how much I drink; it doesn't change anything.
That's fair. But we are not a sleep analysis or caffeine study podcast, are we?
Not yet.
Not. Yeah, if these episodes stay boring, we might be. You wanted to talk about a few new games that you came across, didn't you?
Yes, I do.
All right, hit me with them.
First one is the Dune RPG, Adventures in the Imperium.
And this is based off of the novel and movie that was incredibly boring when it was made the first time around and continued to be so with the most recent remake, correct?
Yes. It is the Dune universe that is beloved by many, Rob.
Just because it's loved doesn't mean it's not boring.
Well, hopefully with this tabletop RPG, you can have very exciting sessions. It sounds very interesting.
Well, you're excited to talk about it, so something has to be at least entertaining enough to draw us in. So what's going on?
Let me start off with a brief synopsis.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Dune Adventurers in the Imperium role-playing game takes you into a far future where fear is the mind killer, so be sure to keep your wits about you. The Imperium is a place of deadly duels, feudal politics, and mysterious abilities in a universe where a blade can change the fortunes of millions. Build your house, carve your place in the universe, or rebuild an ancient lineage and fight for the Imperial throne.
So this is a like a carpenter's style TTRPG. You're just building houses and stuff.
No. So
no. Actually, if I remember correctly, this is Modiphius, isn't it?
Yes, Modiphius. Yep. I hear a lot of good stuff about them. Yeah.
Yeah, we had they're the ones that did the Fallout RPG.
That's right. I really want to get my hands on that as well.
Sure.
But yeah. The briefest of mechanics for this game is the DM, or the GM, I guess you would say, the GM and the party will collaborate on making their house, their clan, their tribe. And
is it open concept, or are we going back to more formal rooms?
it's very open. Like, you can choose what type of house. Is it a nascent house, a minor house, major, or even one of the great houses?
Okay.
Um,
I really
it-
like Craftsman. Sorry,
yeah.
I cannot drop that joke. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, your answer though actually really fits, so it makes it funny too. Okay, so before we get too far in, I've never really kept up too much with Dune. I watched the original movie. I tried to watch the remake. I've never read the book or any of the graphic novels, but I like the concept, and I know that it's essentially politics and farming spice.
Yes, the melange.
Yeah, that's all I know about it.
The spice.
And as you were reading the synopsis, it was the feudal politics that kind of really captured my attention.
Oh yeah, you like that kind of idea?
I have always liked games where politics and intrigue are really a forefront in the role-playing opportunities, but it doesn't seem like it comes up super often. And a lot of times my play style itself defaults to the I'm just here to roll dice. So.
Yeah, I agree with you there. At the end of the day, that's really all that you kind of care about is rolling dice and doing good.
Yeah.
So for this, I thought this was very interesting. The creation system, at least, is, I don't know. It's hard to explain in the sense that it's not like Pathfinder or D&D. It's a bit more open ended and yet limited. That makes any sense? So it's not like a broad list of choices, but you can kind of make them up because it's more RP driven, not as much of mechanic driven.
Okay.
So if I remember correctly, when I was trying to skim through this, there's scenes that you kind of play out. It'd be like the brief setting of you're in the sand dunes and a worm comes up, sort of deal, and then you and the party kind of do your roles to figure out how to get out of there and save your lives, sort of deal. And what I really like about the game, from what I've read so far as well, is it's not a whoever rolls higher wins. You have to roll underneath your score. So if your score, if let's say battle or whatever the score title is, if it's a 10, if you roll a 9, you're good. If you roll a 10 or above, you lose essentially. You fail, you don't succeed, sort of deal.
Yeah, that seems a little interesting, but I mean, it's not uncommon for certain game styles.
Right. It's actually very similar to a Sailor Moon RPG that I read about a few years ago as well. Very interesting concept. It's like golf. You want the netty one.
Right. That's like the old school Dungeons and Dragons armor class system. The lower your AC was, the better.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
But yeah. So you choose your type of house, and this would be your place in your home world, or even your place in the universe. Your reach into the power struggle of what's all going on, and that's kind of nice. And also comes with rival houses, depending on what type of house you have, and also it will dictate your domains. Now, the domains for your house is very interesting as well. The domains kind of dictate what you're known for and what you don't want to be known for as well. These area expertise is limited in these subsections. Let me give you an example that they kind of produced here. Hold on, let me find it. All right, yeah. So they made an example that the party developed a house called House Malay, and they control a string of large islands on the home planet of their house major. I don't know why, but instead of calling it a major house or minor house, it's house minor, house major. It
Okay.
sounds stellar because it reminds me of like the dog constellation, Ursa Minor. It's
Sure.
it's it's a little odd, but I'm not gonna complain.
It's got a cool flow to it, though. I mean, it's not just it. I like things that are slightly off from what we generally speak.
Yes, yes, it's very interesting. It feels more part of its universe and not as much of our universe, and that's what makes me kind of want to get into it some more. It's very
Hmm.
interesting, but it's weird to say.
A little bit, I
Yeah,
guess.
House Mole has two domains, one primary and one secondary. For a primary domain, the player group decides to have an artistic area of expertise. They choose poetry, which is in the subcategory of produce, because they're like producing the poetry, or however you want to say that. Making their home world a haven for the arts, where those accepted into their poetry groups are renowned for creating the most incredible verses in the universe. For their
Hmm.
secondary domain, however, the group decides to branch out into assassination and picks assassins, workers for the subsection, from the Canley area of expertise. The group decides that many of their poetry schools are actually a front for training assassins who are also taught to kill with a certain poetic elegance. I really dug that idea.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's many different areas expertise with its own subcategories and even subsections within that. And they're all very limited, but it always says that if there's not something on the list, you can kind of make up your own, especially with you're collaborating with your GM. So of course that's all have to be discussed anyways.
Hmm.
But yeah, within each area expertise, you got machinery, produce, expertise, workers, and understanding. And then within those is the more finite, like assassins or
Yeah,
poetry or what have you.
yeah,
And it's kind of the same concept gets rolled into making your character as well. You got focuses and you got skills and disciplines that kind of have to relate to your house and also can be completely adverse to your house. I don't want to get too into it and make it boring, but like I love the idea of making a house who is all about like a comedy sketch. They're like comedy people. They put on shows
like
and
gestures and like court gestures kind of thing.
yeah, like jesters. Right, right, right. And what I was thinking is they got those masks, and what they do, kind of behind the scenes, is they'll capture someone that they want to assassinate, and they'll bring them onto the show dressed up as one of them, but they're all like hallucinogenic from like a toxin they ingested. So you can't tell, especially with the mask on. Like, oh man, this guy is so funny looking. He's flopping around, and then as a slapstick comedy routine. I'm doing air quotes here. You can't see that on radio. But,
Nope.
they assassinate the guy right there in front of everybody, but they think it's a show.
Okay, I see what you're
That's
saying.
a really cool idea. And I'm like, oh man, I love to try to role play this out. This would be kind of fun.
Yeah, I
And
think so.
and being able to play as a Fremen. A Fremen is like the natives of Arrakis. They're the guys with the little nose pieces and riding worms. Playing as
Hmm.
those guys on top of doing that would be super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds interesting, and I like the way you're presenting it.
I
I know
try.
that I know that Modiphius Games does, or Modiphius Entertainment does really well with a lot of their stuff. We've talked about some of the interesting ones that seem cool, like their Fallout one, and some of their Cthulhu stuff. Conan looked really good. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and I don't doubt that Dune would be entertaining, and I think it's something that we should consider looking into, at least in the future.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think I wouldn't mind at least trying it out because it is a different game than what I'm used to. It's
Yeah,
more
definitely.
role play, and I really dig it.
Same here, and I think, like you said, that political role play ability it takes a certain mindset, and I think that it may not be a game that we can find a lot of players for, but I think those that we do find would be well adjusted enough that the game would be entertaining either way.
Right, right. Oh, real quick as well. I thought this was very interesting. Sorry, everybody. When you make a character, you also can select your assets. I think you can have one or two. Can't remember exactly. But these assets are so vague and it can be so amazingly, like, I don't know, manipulated. And one of the guys I listened to that first brought this up to me, he was saying that, like an example, you can have an asset that is an old friendship. It can be with anybody that you kind of figure out in the game. It's an old friendship, right? Or it can be an ornithopter, one of those hummingbird, dragonfly helicopters. Like that could be your thing. That's what you have. That's your asset. That's what you start the game with. And it's all everything in between. You can have a slave as an asset. You can have, one of those special daggers from the Fremen as an asset. It's really neat.
Yeah, that's new. That's different. It's interesting.
For sure. I'm going to give me an ornithopter or ornithopter. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Fair enough. That's cool. And you also had another game that you wanted to talk about, didn't you?
Yeah, I do. If you don't mind me talking over here.
No, not at all, man. I mean, it's great that we have the opportunity to not only find new games, but talk about new games as well, because for the past half a year, past 6 months, we've really focused on Pathfinder. And now that we're coming across new things that are interesting, I love the idea of bringing them to listeners who may not have heard of them or are trying to branch out into other genres, etc. So I think it's a really good thing.
Oh yeah, same here. And I want to get my hands on these and play them so bad. It'd be so cool. But yeah, this game I think is, I don't know why I never heard of it before. I don't know why I never thought of looking it up. But it's actually the second edition called The One Ring.
I don't think I've heard of this one.
Yeah, The One Ring, role-playing in the world of Lord of the Rings. This is the mastering the one ring to rule them all. I couldn't even say that.
I have heard of this one. This is Free League, and they got their Morkborg. I've told you about that.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah, it is those guys.
It is Vaccine, which is the horror-based Norwegian, and Tales from the Loop.
Wow.
So, yeah, what'd you find out about this one? I haven't looked into it very much.
Well, they just got done ending their Kickstarter on March 4th of 2021. Oh wow, 21. I guess it isn't all that new then. But they raised over $2 million, which is super cool on Kickstarter.
Wow. Yeah.
It's set in the year 2965 with a third age, and the shadow is returning. Now,
just
the shadow.
vague.
Yeah, okay. Vague enough.
Okay.
Now, it is the second edition, so at least what I'm reading here doesn't really give me a good breakdown. It's more like, this is what's different than the first edition. So shame on me for that, but the game itself. Oh, this is just talking about what's different than the first one. Thank you, Free League, for telling me not what the game is about. Oh yeah, this is great for radio.
All right, so.
Yeah, you go on without me when I'm trying to find actual information here. Thank you, Kickstarter, for again not telling me what the game's about.
Honestly, it looks like the game itself obviously is based on Tolkien's The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings series.
Yes.
Which honestly, honestly, and I hate to say it so much, but if you really think about it, all fantasy-based games are really, especially medieval-style fantasy, are based off of some version of Tolkien's Middle-earth style world. Um, so this game, I assume, allows you to not just play in the world, but everybody's going to sort of do a campaign where you have the One Ring, and it's going to be that setup. I know that we've talked a little bit about the art, and some of the art that they have on display is pretty graphical, pretty decent. I don't mean like graphic as in graphic nature. I just mean that it's stylized and it looks good. Um,
The artwork is beautiful.
yeah, yeah. I think one of the hard things is when we're looking at this particular rule set, um, we don't have a full breakdown of what type of rules that they use. You know, we can't really see exactly if it's a D20 system or a D6 system, but they do seem to have. I mean, you can download some character sheets off their website, and they've got dwarf, elf, hobbit, and human. And it looks like they use three primary stats: strength, heart, and wits. So it looks pretty. I don't want to say basic, but it looks pretty simplified. Their character sheets do have a lot on there. They got plenty of skills, combat proficiencies. You have rewards and virtues, gear. Their character sheets are one landscape page, so definitely not bad.
Oh, not bad at all. Very easy to manage.
Yes, and that's. I mean, we both know playing way more complex and difficult games, having something that's easy to manage, is definitely worth checking out. So, I like the way I like the way it seems to be set up. I wish we could tell if this one in particular is like what the rule system or dice setup is.
So, reading here, see, they got this little bracket on one of these pages. Using your own dice. If you already have a set of regular dice you use for other games, you can easily use them for the One Ring, of course. Everyone knows that you can just use regular dice. Just remember that on a 12-sided feat dice, there's feat dice? Is that included in the game? Does the game give you dice? That's kind of neat. You don't just buy a book.
I have no idea. We're probably going to have to pick up the book at some
We're
point.
going to have to. Yeah, the 11 is the Eye of Sauron symbol. Oh, that's cool. I got the Eye of Sauron on the die. And the 12 is the Gandalf rune symbol. Ooh. On the 6-sided success die, the 6 is an elvish symbol, which represents an additional level of success. So, from gathering from that, is that it comes with a 12-sided and a 6-sided die for different roll checks, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. I never heard of a game that gives you a D6 and a D12.
Generally not together unless you're looking at dice pool systems.
That's interesting. I'm very used to the D20 system, so anything that does something different with dice, I'm like, well, that's intriguing. I want to play.
Yeah, I hear you. It's decent. I know that a dice pool system really allows you to utilize a lot of dice at certain specific times, and then you kind of keep cycling dice in and out. And I know that I've tried to develop a modified dice system that uses a step system as well as a dice pool where you can increase certain dice sides. So your D6s could become D8s and whatnot. And it can be difficult to balance, but it's still really entertaining. It allows for a different flow with, you can almost guarantee successes when you're grabbing more dice or additional dice. So I like the way it sounds, and I don't want to take the time right now on the show to kind of dig into it. I wish we would have had a little bit more information up front, but it's not bad.
I mean, that's shame on me. I just discovered it before we started recording.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. What we can do is we can definitely come back to it after we have a little look into it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure.
I dig that. And you also had a monster spotlight, didn't you?
I do. I do.
Hit me with that too.
All right, my good friend. We're kind of pulling away from Pathfinder for once. And
Really?
I really like the sound of this character, this creature. Now, it's not a far jump from Pathfinder because it's from the Starfinder bestiary.
Okay.
But it's the Goraga Call.
I'm not even familiar with that. I mean, I've got the Starfinder book, but I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, the Goraga Call is a very crazy looking creature. So imagine a very thin and tall humanoid with a super long reptoid tail, lamprey head, and huge, massive wings.
Okay.
So the creature in Starfinder, at least, is a CR5, which doesn't sound too terribly bad, but in their first Adventure Path book, Dead Sons, it was actually like the last boss encounter of their first book. Spoilers ahead. And from what I've read, it took many players' lives in that first book, so it's pretty strong and devastating, even though it's a CR5 encounter.
So, I mean, not having a lot of Starfinder experience under our belts, is their setup similar to the way Pathfinder is, where you look at CRs as average party level plus 1 or 2 difficulty rating to get an appropriate CR?
You know what? I'm assuming it's similar, but I really did not research on how they dictate CR in Starfinder.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something I didn't even think about looking up. That's actually a very good question.
Okay.
But Starfinder has a unique system when it comes to AC. You got energy AC and kinetic AC.
Okay. Is that like for difference between like melee damage and laser guns?
Pretty much. You got, melee weapons and like regular bullets. And then you got your lightsaber basically and your energy weapons. Shooting pew-pews instead. So the creature is immune to radiation, and the reason why is because it lives out in the open subspace. It flies around in space, basically.
Okay.
So that's pretty impressive. Let me read the ecology of this creature. It's very interesting. Subspace remains very much a mystery to explorers and scholars, and scientists have only recently discovered life forms that are native to it. The Goraga Call is one such species. The Goraga Call is mostly humanoid in form, with rubbery yellowish skin, translucent wings, a long reptilian tail. A Goraga Call's head is more like a gaping lamprey-like mouth filled with curved teeth. An average Goraga Call has a 20-foot wingspan and stands over 8 feet tall, though its tail can be more than double that length. It weighs approximately 400 pounds. A Goraga Call freely roam subspace with their diaphanous? I never heard that word before. Diaphanous wings, hunting whatever living prey they can find. Goraga Calls seem to divide all life into 2 categories: predators, such as themselves, or prey, literally everything else. That's awesome. To a Goraga Call, the best way to learn more about a newly discovered species is to kill, dissect, and eat it, and not necessarily in that order. Garaga calls are ambush predators. When a Garaga call encounters a living creature in subspace, it stalks its prey using stealth and its innate ability to phase through solid matter to approach undetected, before draining its victim's life force from a distance. Garaga calls have been known to stalk entire starships. What? They stalk entire starships? That's insane.
It sounds cool though.
Phasing through a vessel's hull to hunt and feed the crew inside. When it comes time to reproduce, a Garaga call seeks out an area to on. This is tripping me up. A Garaga call seeks out an area of intense radiation somewhere in subspace, where it absorbs enough energy to undergo cytogenesis. Cytogenesis. That's an interesting word too. Wow. Literally creating new cells from planar energies to build its offspring. Upon completion, the process results in a fully grown adult Garaga call. Wow. They can live for centuries, growing more than twice its normal size.
That's crazy.
And they got some pretty special abilities too. Pretty crazy. They got leech life, so any creature within 30 feet, it can just spend a resolve point, which is a new Starfinder mechanic. You spend a resolve point, and then you can deal 3d6 damage, fortitude save for half, and it heals them for that same amount of damage. So from a distance, just leeching life from you, I'm trying to imagine how that would look, and that's just insane.
Yeah, and it sounds interesting. I like the way that they have it lied out. I like the way they have it laid out.
Oh, it has several different types of senses, like blind sight, emotion of 60 feet, dark vision, sense through emotion for 60 feet. So they can see like emotion auras. Trying to visualize how that could even look. That's pretty insane.
Yeah, that's interesting because I haven't heard of anything very close to something like that before.
And it has 100 feet of telepathy.
Now that's common though. I mean, we see that quite a bit in a
Oh,
lot of
that's
our
true.
higher CR Pathfinder games.
But you higher CR Pathfinder games, and this is a
Yeah,
CR5, so I really want to find out what the difference is. I want to see how they calculate that.
I think we'd actually have to take the time to play Starfinder at least once. And
Dude, I want to
I,
so bad.
yeah, I like the idea of Starfinder. Honestly, it's the Space Marine aspect I like.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Now, I don't want to play Warhammer, but I want to play something close to it. So Starfinder emulating that would be super cool.
Yeah, in fact, I was actually asked if I want to join a Starfinder game sometime
Ooh.
after St. Patty's Day, after Easter.
Oh, okay. How far away is that? Is that next month?
Honestly, I don't remember. I don't pay attention
Me neither.
to what's going on. I live every day one at a time.
Yeah, for real. For real.
All right, that's not so bad. So, I mean, we covered two systems that we've talked about briefly before. We want to talk about the One Ring again when we have a little bit more information because that one is the
Yes.
one that's um, a little bit more elusive to us right now. And I like your path. I'm sorry, I was gonna say Pathfinder. I meant Starfinder Monster. Um, you know what I like about it is that if people aren't familiar with Starfinder, um, one of the first things that a lot of individuals are going to think of is space travel, and I wonder if they're going to imagine the same thing I did when I was initially imagining this thing flying through the vast differences and reaches of outer space, stalking its spaceship.
Dude, it's like the movie Alien, but actually kind of worse. Like that's just
Yeah,
scary.
yeah, absolutely. I could see that.
It's going
I
through
could.
the wall.
You know, my favorite part of part of Alien, I think, was actually the second one, Aliens, which I believe is the better movie. And I've always been really attached to the little girl Newt. That's my
Yes.
favorite character.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Before we wrap things up, I talked to you a little bit about wanting to turn one of your old characters into an NPC, and it also reminded me that I'm looking to join an online game so I can really get into the nitty gritty of learning fifth edition. And we know that I want to do this because there's a overlaid supplement to fifth edition called Journey to Ragnarok.
Oh, right, right.
And so I figured the best way to do this is to learn how to play the game trial by fire, essentially.
Oh,
And
yeah, dive in.
yeah, so I've been reading a lot. I've been on Reddit searching through, looking for game and RPG horror stories. And I've got to tell you, I got to get off of RPG horror stories, man.
Dude, they're so good, though.
I don't know what horror stories you're reading, but these are just a bunch of whiny babies who don't know how to handle anything.
Oh, well, all right. I don't want to
So,
dive in too deeply because I don't got on hand, but there's one story that I read that was they weren't playing D&D. I guess they were playing Warhammer, but that part doesn't matter. It was a story. This would be great for a movie, even. A story
oh boy.
about this veteran player in this like comic book store
Mhm.
teaming up with a newbie to teach these other guys, these bullies, a lesson. And it's such a great, like almost poetic chef's kiss way. I'm like, I am so proud of these two guys here. They they they're my heroes. I don't want to get
Oh
into it because I
boy.
don't remember the specifics, but that was a good story. And it wasn't a horror story in the sense that everyone was, garbage people, but the bullies, they were bad. Like it makes me wonder how their brains work, how bad they were. Like, how do you act in such a way? It blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of those, so it's just one of those things.
It is.
But
It is.
um, I
Then you
wanted
got
to,
ones with the DM are predators. Now those are bad.
honestly, only getting one half of the story. Granted, I am one of the most chilled, laid back people on the planet. Um, I will let just about anything fly and anything go. I will say no when it's necessary.
Right.
Um, so when you hear about players who encounter kind of like crappy DMs, one of your biggest thoughts is why don't you just leave? But ultimately, with the story that they're telling, are they really that bad of a DM, or is the player just kind of soft for the DM's world?
Oh yeah, it's actually a very valid argument as well for a lot of those stories, because
Yeah,
at least on
that's
Reddit, you're only getting that one side.
right, and that's the thing I'm coming across most is that so many of these people horror stories are talking about DMs and players, and I'm like, man, I would love to play in this world. I'd love to play with these players. Um, for example, one of them was talking about uh, a player. This is totally off base of where I wanted to go before we ended this episode, but I wanted to talk about this because it's funny now. Anyhow, this player was talking about his problem player in a group. The DM would allow it and he would laugh all the time, but he hated that his problem player was a half orc named Chungus, whatever. And he made a whole clan. Every single one of his characters was part of the Chungus clan. Always a half orc who hated halflings for untold reasons and killed them on sight. So he called him racist. I'm like, he's not racist. People can have prejudice in game. It doesn't make him racist. This is ridiculous. I mean, come on.
Right.
Thal killed whatever he felt like killing on sight, and he used whatever reason he could justify it. And the guy's getting mad because the DM is allowing all of his stupid shenanigans. And every time a Chungus dies, he comes up with another Chungus.
I think that is the best idea of having this tribe character set up. That's so cool.
I know. And this guy's bitching about it. I'm like, what the hell? You don't have to bitch, bro. It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
That is. I'll totally play in that guy's group, man.
But anyhow,
I'll be a Chungus.
Right? I'm gonna start my own Chungus tribe. Anyhow, I wanted to mention that as I'm getting into this, I'm developing these character ideas, and I was thinking about your father Albright, Albright or Albrin, Albright, right?
Albrin.
Albrin. Okay, so I was thinking about your father Albrin, and you had talked to me about how you wanted to make him seem like a fanatic,
Yeah.
and as I was thinking about it, I didn't want to steal the thunder from that concept, but the character idea that I was developing in my head was a cleric and who was way fanatical to the point where um, the idea is if he was in combat, he would try to size up or make some kind of heal check to determine how close their opponents are to death so he could switch to non-lethal damage. So he never made the killing blow. He'd always knock them unconscious.
Okay.
And he would give them the opportunity to for to essentially switch
Convert.
sides, convert to his belief, his deific resonance within himself, and if they converted, he would heal them.
Yeah. I mean, heck, that was basically what he was built for. My father Albrin, he was all about the non-lethal damage, smashing you upside the head with the book, but I never had the opportunity to knock anybody out because everyone else was killing everybody.
Right, because everybody in our group was so min-maxed that it was easy to breeze through a battle in a few rounds. And so I keep developing
I love that idea.
I keep developing the concept even farther. I'm like, honestly, I want to play chaotic good. And and pushing it even farther, even my party members, I would make convert before I healed them. And then, because that allows for amazing role play, like, like they'd be like, Rob, I need healing. I'm like, you know what you have to do? I don't want to. If we're in the middle of combat, you have to say the prayer or you don't get anything.
You have to give me some of the tithe. All right.
Yeah. Right. Put your offering in the bowl and I will heal you.
Right.
And
that'd be fun to do too. That's a great idea.
It is, but you also have to remember that in today's climate, it's incredibly pushy and people don't like it. And I love the idea and the concept. But the thing that also draws me to this is that I want to play a character who's so strong in his conviction that his chaotic good sense is tied into his moral fibers. So therefore, no matter what happens, he is under the strict belief that in this life or the next, he will be okay.
Right, right.
And then when we go back to that idea that the opponents, if they're like, no, screw your God, I'm not going to convert, you're not going to save me, blah, 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 then he could just turn around and be like, then I am also her vengeance, and then we'll kill them.
Oh, yeah.
I'm developing this character concept, and it reminded me of the opportunity that you tried to pull through, but you failed, and I just wanted to talk to you about it because I'm like, you know what? I got a similar idea, and I'm gonna force this one somewhere. So I need to get him to play this jerk of a healer.
Yeah, I mean, my father Albrin died too soon, but if you can pull it off, dude, do it. Even if that means having him be an NPC in our game, at least it'd be easier for you to force it.
That's true, but remember, I don't like to play NPCs in way of combat.
Beggars can't be choosers.
That's true. Like he could always be he could be a bad guy. He could be a chaotic good bad guy.
Yeah.
I don't like that idea for a chaotic good bad guy. Yes, I do. What am I talking? Of course I love that idea.
That reminds me of a character concept I wanted to pull off when I was DMing my story a couple years back. Was having this NPC who was constantly trying to be the party's like arch bad guy, but he was incompetent, but somehow always was alive and just became nothing but a tick on everyone's shoulder, just a bug. but he's constantly there trying to pull another little plan and just fail miserably because he sucks.
I love that. When we first started some of our games ideas, we were talking about a serialized game where it was essentially a bunch of mini sessions, and they all had some loosely
like a Saturday morning
overall
cartoon.
Yeah, and that's kind of where that synopsis that you just dropped in flows so well. And I like the idea, but it's difficult to play a long form game when you don't have anything in particular tying everything together.
Yeah, I mean the honestly the biggest reason why I never went through that route is because I knew the party wouldn't just let the guy live, even if he like managed to escape or anything like that. So I feel the one it wasn't going to be good like RP elements. It's just going to be, oh, you again, kill him. It wouldn't be fun for me. So I was like, well, maybe another time.
Right, and unfortunately, you're not wrong. You know the parties that we play with. You know how it works out. So as much as some of the cool stuff you want to throw in there, it just doesn't stick.
I mean, that's DM 101. Know your party and roll with it.
Yep, I agree with that. So, all right, let's wrap it up here. We kind of talked about 2 new games that we're really interested in. One we want to look into a little bit more. And kind of a character concept idea that I enjoy, one that you've tried. Your monster was really cool, and like you said, it was straight out of Starfinder, so it wasn't medieval fantasy, but it was still adjacent to our favorite Pathfinder style game.
Oh yeah,
and we dig that. So I dig it. If you guys are interested in more episodes of the Epic Table Games audio show, tell your friends about it, because a large audience means way cooler content. Reach out to us on Facebook at Epic Table Games, or you can find us online at epictablegames.com.
Epic Table Games. Stress, nights, roll, nights, fantastic nights, fairy tales, stress, nights, roll, nights, fantastic nights. Make way for the paladins. Make way for the paladins. Epic Table Games. Make way for the paladins. Make way for the paladins. Epic Table Games. Thank you for listening to the Epic Table audio show with the paladins of the podcast, Rob and Potato. Until next time, stay in touch on Facebook at Epic Table Games and online at epictablegames.com. Yeah.